Okay. You had, get out my work. You had questions 6, 7, 9, and 10. Was that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so number 6. I have to connect my, I have to do one more connection before it'll let me write on my board. Sorry. Okay. Right, number 6, you have x to the 4/3 y over x times y to the 7/6 power, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're gonna do, and I already did this in the calculator to make this go a little bit faster, but whenever you have the same base, you can, and you have a fraction, you can subtract your exponents. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do x to the 4/3 minus 1. 4/3 minus 1 gives you x to the 1/3.
Wait, why
And then
you subtracting?
It was part of your rules, part of the quotient rules. So this is quotient of powers property. When you have the same base, you can subtract your exponents if they're in a fraction. So you would subtract the top one from the bottom one. So that's why I subtracted 4/3 minus 1. And that gave me x to the 1/3. Because 4/3 minus 1 is 1/3.
All right.
Then you're going to do the same thing for the y. It's going to be y to the 1 power, 1 minus 7/6. 1 minus 7/6 gives you y to the negative 1/6 power. And remember, whenever you have a negative exponent, you have to move that. So this is all considered right now where I'm at, and when you see the video, this will make sense. But on the top part of the fraction, you have x to the 1/3, y to the negative 1/6 power, all over 1. We've got to move that y to the negative 1/6 down to the bottom. So this is going to be x to the 1/3 over y to the 1/6, 1/6 power. Okay. Did you have any other questions?
Yeah. Real quick.
Yeah.
How did you get negative? You said x for the bottom denominator. You got x y to the negative 1/6.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get negative?
Okay, so if you look at the original question, you have y on the top, y to the first power on top. And then on the bottom, you have y to the 7/6 power. So what I'm doing, I'm subtracting 1 minus 7/6. That gives me negative 1/6. And then to get rid of the negative, you have to move it around. If it's in the top, it moves to the bottom. If it's in the bottom, it moves to the top.
All right.
And please go back and watch this video when you can actually see what I'm writing. It makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, because I can't really picture that in my head right now.
Right. And if you still have questions, we can work on it. Okay, so let's go to number 7. You have 2x to the 3rd power, y to the 2/3 power over x to the 5/3 power y to the 3/5 power. And then all of that gets raised to the third power. So that little 3, that's because it's on the outside of those big parentheses, it goes with every single base. Okay, so I'm going to use a different color here. Okay, so that 3 goes with the 2. That 3 goes with the x to the third. That 3 goes to the y to the 2/3. And it goes to everything in the bottom. All right, so 2 to the third power, and then you have x raised to the 3 power, so x cubed, and then you're going to multiply 3 times 3, and then y to the 2/3. You're going to multiply that 2/3 times 3. Okay. On the bottom, we're going to multiply 5/3 times 3. Anthony, I'm showing a step where I show the multiplication. I'm going to do the multiplication on the next step. So then on the bottom, you have y to the 3/5, and then you're going to multiply 3/5 times 3. All right. So when I actually perform that, 2 cubed, or 2 to the third power, gives you 8. X to the third power times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. And then y raised to the 2/3 times 3 power 2/3 times 3. Well, 2 times 3 is 6, right? And then 6 divided by 3 is 2. So 2/3 times 3 give you 6/3, and that's just 2. Okay. So on the top, so far, we have 8x to the 9th power y squared. Now on the bottom, you're multiplying 5/3 times 3. That's going to give you 15/3. And 15/3 is just 5. So that's going to give you x to the 5th power on bottom so far. And then the y is 3/5 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, and that's all over 5. So keep that fraction, 9/5. Okay. Question so far?
No, I think I'm with you.
Okay, and then you use the same property we used before, the quotient of powers property. So on the top, you have x to the 9th power. On the bottom, you have x to the 5th power. You're going to subtract 9 minus 5. Okay, so we have 8x to the 9 minus 5. 9 minus 5 is 4. Okay, and then we have y to the 2, y squared, sorry. Y squared minus 9/5. And 2 minus 9/5 should give you 1/5. So 2 minus 9/5 gives you 1/5. All right. So we have 8x to the y, x to the 4th, y to the 1/5. 8x to the 4th, y to the 1/5. Questions?
Wait, what did you do for the y again?
For the y, okay, so after you distribute that exponent of a 3, so it's 3 times 5/3, 3 times 3/5 on the bottom. So in this step, it's on the top part of the fraction, you have y squared. On the bottom part, you should have y to the 9/5. You subtract that. You're going to do 2 minus 9/5. That gives you 1/5.
I'm with you. All right.
Okay. And then number 9. you have 2x on the square root of 3x cubed times the square root of 12x to the fifth. Okay. I like to revert back to my Algebra 1 days, and when we did radicals in Algebra 1, you can, when you're multiplying, you keep what's on the outside, you multiply on the outside with what's on the outside, and then what's on the inside of the radical, you can multiply on the inside of another radical. So I'm going to keep that 2x on the outside. On the inside, I can multiply 3x cubed times 12x to the fifth. Okay, what is 3 times 12?
36.
36. And then x to the third power times x to the fifth power. You're just going to add those exponents, 3 and 5. So that's going to give you x to the 8th power. Okay. And so anytime you have a square root of whatever, so let's say you have the square root of 4. Okay. Your root is 2, your power is 1. So that's really 4 to the 1/2 power. So anytime you have a square root, it's really to the 1/2 power. So keep the 2x on the outside. And you know, like if you think back, what is the square root of just 36? What is the square root of 36?
6.
6. Okay, and then that x to the 8th is going to be times, it's going to be all raised to the 1/2 power. Again, anything that says square root, that's to the 1/2 power. So I basically sectioned it out and I broke apart the 36 and the x to the 8th. And I said square root of 36, square root of x to the 8th. Now I'm going to use that as a power. So square root really means to the 1/2 power. So we have 2x times 6 times x to the 8th raised to the 1/2 power. You're going to multiply 8 times 1/2. You get 8/2, which is just 4. Okay, so we have x to the 4th power. Okay, so now you can multiply this out. 2 times 6 is 12. X to the 1st power times x to the 4th power, add those exponents. 1 plus 4 is 5. So your final answer is 12x to the 5th.
All right. So
Okay.
when it says square root, I could put like x to the 8th to the 1/2 power. That's what's equal
Yes.
to, like the same thing. All
Yes. X to the 8th raised to the 1/2 power. You're just multiplying the 8 and the 1/2, and that gives you 4.
right. That was one of the easier ones.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Okay, and then number 10 is nasty. Okay, so you'll need a calculator for this one, for sure. All right, so in the original question, you have x to the negative 1/2 power, y to the 4th, that is all in parentheses, raised to the 1/4 power. That's on the top part of the fraction. On the bottom part, you have x to the negative 1/8 power, then y. Nope. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. On the bottom, you have x to the 2/3, y to the 3/2 times x to the negative 3/2, y to the 1/2. Does that sound right? Make sure. Let me double check. Okay. Because that's, believe it or not, that's one of the easiest mistakes is to copy the problem down wrong. A lot of people do that. Okay, from here, what I did, I took the top and I distributed that 1/4. Okay, when you distribute that 1/4, let me get a different color for the video. 1/4 times -1/2. So this is for the x. When you multiply those exponents, -1/2 times 1/4, you should get -1/8. Okay. And then on the top, 1/4 times 4 for the y. That's just 4/4, which is just 1. So on the top, so far, I've got x to the -1/8, y to the first, or just y. On the bottom, do you notice that you have like bases? You have an x and then a y. What you can do, if you have like bases, you can combine your exponents. And this is using the product of powers property. That's where you add your exponents if your bases are the same. So again, you can use a calculator to make this fast and easy. So what you're going to end up doing on the bottom, you have x to the 2/3 times x to the -3/2. You are going to add 2/3. I'm going to do this to the side. 2/3 plus we have -3/2. When you do that, you should get -5/6, right? Check my work. 2/3, or you can just do 2/3 minus 3/2. You should get -5/6. Okay. So that exponent with the x is a -5/6. With the y, you are going to multiply. So we have y to the 3/2 times y to the 1/2. You're going to add those exponents. You're going to add 3/2 plus 1/2. What do you get? You get 4/2, which is just 2. When you get to this part, we have x to the -1/8 y over x to the -5/6 y squared. What I like to do before I subtract, I need to get rid of those negatives. Okay, so I'm going to switch them. I'm going to move the x to the -5/6 to the top. That's going to make that exponent positive. I'm going to move the x to the -1/8 to the bottom, and that's going to make that exponent positive. So when you watch the video, it'll hopefully make a little bit more sense. Okay, so we have x to the +5/6 y on top. On the bottom, we have x to the +1/8 power y squared. Now you can subtract your exponents. Again, you can use a calculator. We're going to have x to the 5/6 minus 1/8. What is 5/6 minus 1/8? 1/8. What do you get?
Wait, how do you do that thing on the calculator where you put the fraction in?
Which kind of calculator?
TI 84 plus.
Okay, let's do this together. We have all right, I lost my train of thought. 5/6 minus 1/8. So I think you go to math, fraction. No. Do you have a TI-30XS multi-view?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I'm gonna do it on here really quickly, and then I'll get with you. There is a way, but I forget. So if you do this on the old calculator, it's 5/6 minus 1/8. you should get 17 over 24. So this is going to be x to the 17 over 24. And then for the y, you're going to have, you have y to the first over y squared. You're just going to do 1 minus 2. And that gives you -1, right? So that's y to the -1 power. So now you have to move that y to the bottom of the fraction. So we have x to the 17 over 24 over y. I'm going to stop the recording and then we can look at that calculator question. Let's see.
Oh, I also have another question.
Okay, hold on just a minute.